Unbelievable. 10 African-American celebrities building billion-dollar businesses in Africa. What if I told you the next wave of black billion-dollar power won't be built in Hollywood, Wall Street, or Silicon Valley, but on African soil? While the world keeps sleeping on the continent, African-American icons are quietly planting flags, smart cities, tech ecosystems, cultural capitals, and global talent pipelines. This isn't charity, and it isn't vacation energy. This is ownership, infrastructure, and legacy in motion. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. So here's my ask: hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for legends of black excellence. Because the future of black wealth is being written right now, and you deserve to witness it first. Idris Elba. Idris Elba's story in Africa isn't a celebrity side quest. It's a lifelong loop closing with purpose and scale. Born in London to a Sierra Leonean father and Ghanaian mother, Elba spent years speaking openly about wanting his success to mean something back home. In 2019, he and Sierra Leonean entrepreneur Siaka Stevens co-founded Sherbro Alliance Partners, a development company aimed at transforming Sherbro Island, an underdeveloped area off Sierra Leone's southern coast, into a modern, sustainable urban center tied to tourism, clean industry, and long-term jobs. Their vision is called Sherbro Island City, and it has steadily moved from ambitious talk to formal national backing. Here's what makes this different from a flashy investment headline. In June 2025, Sierra Leone's parliament ratified an investment framework agreement for the Sherbro project, effectively giving it a legal runway and clear public-private structure to proceed. That same national support includes special economic status for the island, designed to attract outside capital and make large infrastructure feasible. In plain terms, the country isn't just applauding from the sidelines, it's building the rules that let this plan grow. Energy is the spine of any new city, and this is where real measurable progress shows up. At COP28 in late 2023, global renewable firm Octopus Energy signed a partnership with Sherbro Alliance Partners to develop Sierra Leone's first wind farm located on Sherbro Island. The initial phase was announced as up to 5 wind turbines paired with solar generation and battery storage to supply reliable power. In November 2024, Octopus confirmed that plans had moved forward with submissions to government and on-the-ground development steps beginning. So this isn't a concept video, it's hardware approvals and timelines. If someone offered you the chance to help design a brand new city from scratch, what would you protect first? Jobs, schools, or the environment? Elba frames the project as more than a luxury coastline makeover. Public statements from the team describe a mixed-use city with housing commercial districts, hospitality zones, and creative industry space meant to pull in both local entrepreneurs and diaspora innovators. The pitch is strategic. Sherbro Island sits along West Africa's Atlantic corridor, close enough to regional markets to serve as a gateway for trade culture and green innovation. If it works, Sierra Leone gains a new growth engine. If it scales, it could shift how investors view the country altogether. What's also notable is Elba's personal commitment. He became a Sierra Leonean citizen and has repeatedly used his global platform to recruit partners and spotlight the nation's potential, not pity. That matters to older American audiences who've watched Africa covered mainly through crises. Elba's approach says, look again. There is risk, yes, but also opportunity anchored in renewable power, government buy-in, and a clear development vehicle. Will Sherbro Island City become a billion-dollar success? That depends on execution, financing, and time. But the foundation is real, the approvals are real, and the energy build-out is real. For Idris Elba, this isn't about returning to Africa to be seen. It's about returning to build something that lasts. Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper's relationship with Africa didn't begin as a business headline. It started as curiosity turned into pride, and has grown into a long-game cultural strategy centered on Ghana. Chancellor Jonathan Bennett first traveled to Accra in early 2022 after Ghana's public call for diaspora reconnection. He described the visit as grounding and life-affirming, and instead of treating that feeling like a one-time breakthrough, he returned again and again. Each trip added another layer, deeper friendships with local artists, more time learning the rhythms of the city, and a clearer sense that Ghana could be more than inspiration. It could be a platform. The most concrete, publicly documented pillar of Chance's work on the continent is the Black Star Line Festival. Co-founded with Vic Mensa, the free week-long gathering debuted in Accra on January 6, 2023, staged around Black Star Square. The festival blends a major concert with cultural programming, panel discussions, art installations, exhibitions, and community nightlife events, all designed to connect Africans and the broader Black diaspora through music, entrepreneurship, and shared history. Reports of the first edition placed attendance at roughly 50,000 people, a striking number for a brand new, non-profit-styled festival. The name itself is intentional, a tribute to Marcus Garvey's 1919 Black Star Line movement, signaling that this is about linkage, not spectacle. That moment arrived as Ghana's creative economy and urban development were already accelerating. Official Ghana investment data shows the country's property sector grew rapidly between 2016 and 2021, with estimates around a 30% compound annual growth rate, while Accra continues to face a housing deficit and a surge in diaspora purchasing. In other words, the social energy Chance is tapping into sits on top of real economic momentum. Culture becomes a gateway, and the gateway can become industry. Now, about the internet claims that he's buying vast tracts of land or constructing major developments in Ghana, those stories circulate widely. But there are no confirmed public filings or reputable business disclosures showing specific Chance-owned real estate projects on the ground yet. So if we say no fake news, we have to separate proven activity from speculation. What is clear is his direction of travel. He keeps building participation rather than distance, hosting the festival, collaborating with Ghanaian musicians, drawing on highlife and Afrobeats textures for his Starline era, and speaking consistently about Africa as a place to create, with not just perform in. For older American viewers who grew up seeing Africa framed mostly through crisis coverage, Chance offers a different lens. Ghana, in his narrative, is a home for Black imagination and a market where that imagination can scale. If his trajectory continues, the lasting story won't be that he visited Ghana. It will be that he helped make Accra a permanent stop on the world's cultural and commercial map, a place where diasporic identity turns into durable opportunity. Ludacris. Ludacris may be known in America for chart-topping hits and blockbuster films, but his most meaningful move toward Africa has been quiet, personal, and strategic. In early January 2020, Christopher Ludacris Bridges and his family were officially granted Gabonese citizenship through his wife, Eudoxie Mbugiengwe, who was born in Libreville. That moment wasn't framed as a celebrity stunt. It was a public declaration that his connection to Central Africa is permanent, legal, and family-anchored. In an era where many stars visit, Ludacris chose to belong. Citizenship matters in business because it changes what you can build and how seriously a country views you. Gabon is not a random choice. It's a small nation of about 2.3 million people, rich in oil and forests, but actively working to diversify into agriculture, ecotourism, and local processing industries. Over the last several years, Gabon's government has rolled out investment codes and tax incentives aimed at attracting both foreign capital and diaspora partners, especially in farming supply chains and sustainable tourism. For a Black American entrepreneur with global reach, that environment is a logical place to plant roots. Now, here is where we draw a hard line between truth and rumor. Some online narratives claim Ludacris is already running giant agricultural estates or building massive media complexes in Gabon. Those specific projects have not been confirmed by reliable public filings or mainstream business reporting. So rather than repeat internet excitement, the safe and honest takeaway is this. Ludacris has positioned himself inside a country that is openly inviting diaspora citizens to invest in exactly the sectors where long-term wealth is made: food systems, land development, and cultural production. That positioning alone is not small. It puts him in the right lane for billion-dollar possibilities over time, even if the final dollar figures are not yet public. If your family gained citizenship in a country your grandchildren could call home, would you see it as a symbol or a responsibility to build something real there? What Ludacris has consistently shown is a preference for legacy over loudness. His public return trips to Gabon emphasize family pride and a genuine relationship with everyday people. That steady presence creates trust, the invisible currency behind any serious deal. And it also aligns with a broader reality. Africa's growth is increasingly driven by patient capital, meaning investors who are willing to develop industries over years, not chase short-term hype. Farms don't turn profitable overnight. Neither do tourism corridors, processing hubs, or creative industry infrastructure. The people who win are those who arrive early, learn the terrain, and stay. Seen this way, Ludacris represents a different model from the typical celebrity investor. He is not selling Gabon as a fashion trend. He is quietly merging identity, family, future, and opportunity in a nation that is rewriting its economic playbook. If he eventually scales visible ventures there, the story won't be that he discovered Africa. It will be that he chose a specific African home, took citizenship seriously, and stepped into a national moment where diaspora partnership can shape a whole new chapter of development. will.i.am. will.i.am has always moved like a futurist who happens to make music. Long before AI became dinner table talk, he was building education projects, launching tech ventures, and insisting that imagination and engineering belong in the same room. His work in Africa follows that same mindset. Rather than chasing quick headlines, he is helping lay foundations for the skills and industries that will decide who leads the global economy tomorrow. In September 2025, will.i.am teamed up with the International Telecommunication Union, the United Nations Agency for Digital Technologies, and Google to launch a large-scale initiative that brings hands-on artificial intelligence and robotics learning into African schools. The first rollout begins in 5 countries: Ghana, Côte d'Ivoire, Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa. The design targets students roughly ages 10 to 18, and the curriculum goes beyond theory. Kids learn to code, assemble robotics hardware, and prototype solutions to real problems in their own communities, from simple automation tasks to early AI-assisted projects. What makes this effort more than a celebrity donation is its focus on the entire learning pipeline. Teachers receive structured training so the knowledge doesn't disappear when a pilot ends. Schools gain robotics kits, lesson plans adapted to local needs, and access to safe online tools, especially in underserved areas. Students then participate in national showcases where their work is tested, celebrated, and sometimes connected to mentorship or startup pathways. That kind of scaffolding matters because Africa's biggest tech barrier isn't ambition, it's uneven access to equipment and a shortage of trained educators. Across the continent, fewer than 1 in 4 university students study STEM subjects, and girls remain significantly underrepresented. Building confidence and capability earlier is how you change those numbers later. will.i.am's role in this movement is practical, not ceremonial. He is a tech founder who understands how talent fuels startups, and how startups fuel national prosperity. He has consistently supported spaces where music production meets software, where design meets machine learning, and where robotics is treated as creative expression. The aim is straightforward: help African youth become creators of technology, not just consumers of apps built elsewhere. That means nurturing local solutions for local challenges, agricultural monitoring, health tech triage language tools for African dialects, or creative AI for film and gaming. For older American audiences who grew up seeing Africa framed mostly through hardship, the deeper story here is speed. Many regions skipped landlines and moved straight into mobile internet. Some bypassed cash-only commerce and normalized digital payments at world-class pace. The same leap is now happening with machine intelligence. By putting AI and robotics into classrooms today, Will.i.am is betting that tomorrow's global innovators will be trained in Nairobi, Lagos, Johannesburg, Abidjan, and Accra, and that they will build companies capable of scaling far beyond their borders. In the 21st century, talent is the new natural resource. And by investing in young minds at scale, Will.i.am is helping turn Africa's youthful population into an engine for billion-dollar innovation. Tiffany Haddish. Tiffany Haddish's Africa chapter is rooted less in skyscrapers or venture rounds and more in identity access and the kind of soft power groundwork that often comes before big economic moves. Haddish, born in Los Angeles to an African-American mother and an Eritrean Jewish father, grew up hearing stories of a homeland she had never seen. After her father's death, that pull became personal. In May 2019, during Eritrea's 28th independence celebrations in Asmara, she was officially granted Eritrean citizenship. For a public figure whose career was built on telling hard truths with humor, that moment wasn't a photo op. It was a legal and emotional bridge back to family history. Since receiving citizenship, Haddish has returned multiple times, visiting neighborhoods, villages tied to her relatives, and cultural events where Eritreans treated her not as a guest, but as kin. Those trips matter especially in a country where diaspora engagement is both sensitive and significant. Eritrea has long encouraged people of Eritrean descent abroad to contribute skills, resources, and connections to national development. Citizenship gives Haddish a different lane than a visiting celebrity. It signals permanence, the right to participate, and the credibility to build relationships that aren't transactional. Now here's the key issue if we're saying no fake news. Viral commentary sometimes claims she has already poured vast sums into women-run factories, fashion export hubs, or agriculture collectives inside Eritrea. As of today, there are no reliable public business records confirming any large-scale commercial projects under her name on Eritrean soil. So the truthful framing is this: Tiffany Haddish has established official belonging and visible community ties, and she has spoken about supporting Eritrean women and artisans, but the dollar amounts and formal deal structures have not been publicly documented. That doesn't make her role small, it just means we respect the line between verified action and internet imagination. If you finally gained citizenship in your parents' birth country, would you treat it like a ceremony or like a doorway to responsibility? Look at Haddish's track record elsewhere, and her approach becomes clearer. In the United States, she has invested in community-based empowerment through initiatives like Diaspora Groceries, which focuses on food security microgrants and local entrepreneurship. That pattern building from the ground up, centering women and pairing culture with economic dignity, telegraphs the type of impact she's likely to pursue in Africa over time. Her public storytelling about Eritrea consistently emphasizes pride, everyday people, and possibility, not pity. For American audiences who grew up seeing Eritrea and much of Africa only through the lens of conflict or scarcity, that reframing is powerful on its own. In other words, Tiffany Haddish's Africa story is not yet a headline about billion-dollar assets. It's the earlier, quieter phase: citizenship, trust, proximity, and a platform that can spotlight Eritrean talent to global markets. Big enterprises rarely start with contracts. They start with belonging and access. Haddish has secured both. Whether she eventually translates that into formal industries in Eritrea remains to be seen, but the foundation she's laying is real, and it's unfolding in plain sight. Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey's Africa narrative is often told in big, sweeping claims online, so let's tighten the lens to what's solid and meaningful without drifting into rumor. Harvey first stepped into Ghana in August 2019 during the country's Year of Return campaign, a national invitation for people of African descent abroad to reconnect, invest, and collaborate. His visit wasn't casual. He arrived with his wife, met with cultural leaders at the W.E.B. Du Bois Center in Accra, and publicly called Ghana home. That trip placed him among a wave of Black American public figures who were rethinking Africa not as a memory, but as a future-facing place to plant serious roots. What is clearly verifiable is that Harvey used his global media profile to amplify Ghana's appeal to older middle-class Americans who may never have considered West Africa as a destination for business or retirement. In interviews and public remarks after 2019, he repeatedly emphasized safety, warmth, and opportunity, challenging stereotypes that many U.S. viewers grew up with. That kind of perception shift has economic weight. Tourism authorities in Ghana reported a measurable surge in diaspora travel tied to the year of return era, and Accra's property market has been one of the biggest winners, with new luxury corridors, rising rental yields, and expanded diaspora-focused developments. Harvey's role here is less builder of towers and more accelerator of attention, helping move hesitant audiences toward curiosity. Now, the transcript you shared suggests he is establishing major real estate portfolios and media training centers in Ghana at a billion-dollar scale. As of now, there are no reliable mainstream business records confirming Harvey-owned property mega projects on Ghanaian soil, and there's no publicly documented training institute launched under his direct Ghana-based corporate structure. So if we're serious about accuracy, those specific claims must stay in the unconfirmed box unless new contracts or filings appear. Where Harvey does have a measurable Africa-facing business footprint is in entertainment format licensing and global production. His company, Steve Harvey Global, holds international rights to several show formats, and Family Feud Africa began airing in 2020 with localized versions across the continent. That might sound like television trivia, but format ownership is a real revenue engine. It generates licensing fees, ad partnerships, and production jobs in every market it enters. It also pulls African hosts, writers, and crews into a global content ecosystem that traditionally centered the US and Europe. In other words, even without a skyscraper in Accra bearing his name, Harvey has already inserted African markets into a profitable media pipeline. There's also a softer layer that matters for long-term wealth creation, mentoring, and skills programs. Harvey's US-based initiatives for youth development and entrepreneurship have been discussed as models he wants to extend globally. While Africa-specific rollouts haven't been formally announced in detail, his public messaging consistently points toward building human capacity, not just hosting events. So what's the honest summary? Steve Harvey is a high-visibility connector in Africa's current moment. He helped spotlight Ghana to millions of Americans. He participates in a proven continental TV business, and he keeps signaling interest in deeper engagement. The billion-dollar chapter may or may not arrive later, but even the confirmed pieces show something real: media influence turning into economic lanes, and a continent gaining new partners who shape narratives as much as they shape markets. Michael Jai White. Michael Jai White's connection to Africa has unfolded in a quieter, more personal lane than the viral narratives often suggest. The Brooklyn-born actor and elite martial artist first came to Ghana during the country's year of return season in late 2018 into early 2019, a period when Ghana invited the global Black diaspora to reconnect through heritage tourism, cultural exchange, and investment. White arrived as a respected Hollywood figure, but he left describing the trip as transformational. In multiple interviews afterward, he talked about learning history on the ground, feeling a deeper sense of belonging, and seeing West Africa as a place that reshaped how he understood himself. Those reflections are consistent across years of public comments, and they form the real foundation of his Africa story. One widely documented milestone from that visit was his traditional installment in Ghana. During the Full Circle Festival hosted by Boris Kodjoe and linked to the Year of Return celebrations, White was installed as a chief within the Akwamu state and given the stool title commonly reported as Nana Akoto Ithri Odopon. The ceremony is not just symbolic pageantry in Ghanaian culture. It usually represents a formal relationship with a community with duties of advocacy, visibility, and support. White has spoken openly about taking that honor seriously, and he has continued to refer to Ghana not as a stopover, but as a place that welcomed him into extended kinship. If a community on the other side of the world offered you a title that carried responsibility, would you accept it? And what would you do with it? Now, about the claim that Michael Jai White is building $1 billion cinema infrastructure in Ghana. As of today, there are no credible public business filings, studio contracts, or mainstream trade reports confirming that he has launched large-scale film facilities or formal stunt academies on Ghanaian soil. So if we're keeping this clean and accurate, we should treat those specific dollar value assertions as unverified. What is verifiable is that White has long been involved in action filmmaking at a professional level, acting, directing, producing, and designing fight sequences. That skill set makes him a natural candidate for collaboration with African studios, especially as Ghana and neighboring markets push to expand production capacity and raise technical standards in action and thriller genres. In other words, the pathway described in the transcript is plausible, but it is not yet documented as an operational enterprise. Where White's influence is already real is cultural and reputational. His Ghana journey has been widely covered across African media, and his public respect for Ghanaian society has encouraged other diaspora figures and everyday travelers to consider visiting. In a region where tourism, entertainment, and diaspora real estate are increasingly interconnected, that kind of endorsement carries economic ripple effects even without a signed studio deal. He has also been visible in conversations about diaspora-Africa relations, pushing back against negative stereotypes and urging Black Americans to experience the continent directly rather than through second-hand narratives. For an American audience aged 45 to 65, there's something important here. The Africa story isn't only written by government programs or corporate giants. Sometimes it's built through trust, shared identity, and a few influential people willing to say, "I went, I saw, and it changed me." Michael Jai White's confirmed role fits that pattern. He may not yet be a documented mogul with a registered film empire in Accra, but he is a diaspora figure who crossed the bridge, received a lasting communal role, and keeps that bridge open for others. If larger industry projects come next, they will rest on a foundation that is already solid relationship, respect, and a genuine return. Rick Ross. Rick Ross moves through Africa with the instincts of a seasoned brand builder, not a casual visitor. In the United States, William Leonard Roberts II became the biggest boss by stacking enterprises around his music. Maybach Music Group, a sizable Wingstop franchise portfolio, beverage partnerships like Bel Air Rosé, and an aggressive focus on assets and land back home. That history matters because when Ross pays attention to a new region, he usually thinks in ecosystems culture, first commerce, next ownership, last. His most concrete Africa-focused step so far has been anchored in music and culture. In early February 2024, Ross publicly announced a continent-centered project featuring roughly 12 African artists from different countries. He named Ghana's Stone Boy and referenced other Ghanaian stars alongside Nigeria's Asake and Yemi Alade, plus Tanzania's Diamond Platnumz, and more. The framing was clear. This wasn't a one-off feature for clout, but a deliberate Africa-only creative push meant to spotlight local Sound Connect audiences across borders and place his brand inside the Afrobeats and African pop explosion at its hottest global moment. For Ross, sound is the entry point, because music is where trust, taste, and attention are built fastest. Ross's visits to West Africa have amplified that strategy. Every appearance turns into a marketplace event. Promoters court him for shows, club owners compete for visibility, and local media zoom in, creating the kind of buzz that often precedes bigger business plays. This fits his identity. Ross has always sold a lifestyle of luxury nightlife, high-end celebration, and big-ticket experiences. West African cities, especially Lagos and Accra, already support fast-growing entertainment economies where premium lounges, festivals, and celebrity-driven venues can scale quickly when the right brand arrives. Now we also have to be honest about what is not confirmed. Viral posts sometimes claim Ross already owns huge properties or operates a chain of elite clubs in Ghana and Nigeria. Those specific ownership details haven't shown up in reputable public business records. What we can say is that Ross has repeatedly signaled interest in deepening commercial ties outside music, and his American playbook shows why Africa would be a natural next chapter. In the US, he didn't stop at performing. He turned fans into customers through places they could walk into, spend money in, and post about restaurants' branded experiences and real estate. So where does the billion-dollar business's headline land with Rick Ross today? The wealth-building blueprint is visible even if the African asset list is still forming publicly. Step 1, embed himself in Africa's dominant music wave through high-profile collaborations. Step 2, leverage that cultural presence into hospitality and experience-based ventures that match his luxury identity. Step 3, expand into property and long-term holdings, once relationships, timing, and regulation line up. If he follows the same pattern that grew his empire in America, Africa could become his next major frontier, not through one dramatic purchase, but through a network of venues, partnerships, and assets that quietly snowball into something enormous. Serena Williams. Serena Williams' presence in Africa's business future doesn't come through a single giant construction site or headline-grabbing land deal. Her influence travels through capital technology and the patient work of backing early companies that can scale across borders. After redefining greatness on the tennis court, she built Serena Ventures to invest in founders solving real problems, and Africa has become one of the regions where that approach is most visible. The most firmly documented piece of her Africa-focused investing is Nigeria-based Nestcoin. In February 2022, Nestcoin announced a pre-seed round of about $6.5 million, and Serena Ventures was listed among the participating investors. Her exact check size was not publicly disclosed, so any claim about how much Serena personally put in would be speculation. What matters is that she joined a credible syndicate early, at a stage when many global funds still treated African crypto and fintech as too risky. Nestcoin's mission is to build and support Web3 products for Africans covering education, digital finance tools, and on-continent innovation rather than exporting talent elsewhere. Serena's entry into that round signaled confidence in a sector that has since become one of the continent's hottest battlegrounds for global investors. She didn't stop there. In October 2022, Serena Ventures participated in the $3.3 million seed round for Steers Business, a Nigerian data and intelligence company that helps investors understand African markets with more precision. Again, her individual amount wasn't disclosed, but the round itself is verifiable, and it reflects a clear thesis. African growth needs trustworthy information systems to attract bigger pools of money. Serena herself said her decision was driven by Steers' strategic value, not by sentimentality. That's a crucial distinction for anyone allergic to hype. She invests where she sees business logic. Beyond those two named deals, public databases tracking venture activity show Serena Ventures has also backed other Africa-linked startups such as Andela Developer Talent and Numida SME Finance Tools in Uganda. The number of Africa-centered investments in her portfolio is still relatively small compared to her global list, but their themes are consistent financial access, talent development, and data infrastructure. She is not collecting Africa points. She is assembling building blocks for modern economies. Why does this fit the billion-dollar business's headline, even without a single confirmed billion-dollar asset under her name on the continent? Because venture capital works like compounding interest. A 6.5-year pre-seed today can become a unicorn tomorrow if the market is large, young, and underserved, exactly the profile of Africa's tech space. The continent has this world's fastest-growing urban population, a rising middle class, and a digital-first generation that skipped old systems and adopted new ones at speed. Serena's model is to find the companies riding those tides early, then let scale do the heavy lifting. So Serena Williams' Africa story is a masterclass in modern wealth creation, not loud, not performative, but anchored in smart capital and future-proof industries. If any of these bets grow into billion-dollar giants, history will show she didn't arrive late. She arrived right on time. Jay-Z. Jay-Z has never been the kind of mogul who chases noise first. He builds infrastructure, then lets the results speak. In Africa, that approach is showing up through Roc Nation's widening reach in sport and music, less about one flashy purchase, more about creating channels that move African talent into global arenas with stronger contracts and bigger earning power. The most concrete step is in football. Roc Nation Sports International, RNSI. The soccer division under Jay-Z's Roc Nation umbrella officially launched an African expansion in 2025 after about a year of groundwork and scouting. In July 2025, RNSI announced it had signed 8 rising young players across 6 African countries. Public reports list prospects from Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Guinea, Zimbabwe, and the Gambia, and the agency has said Ivory Coast and Zambia are next on its map. Ghana has been positioned as a West African hub for operations, which matters because a base on the continent allows continuous talent tracking rather than occasional fly-ins. Why does that matter? Africa already produces many of the world's top footballers, yet too often their careers are shaped late after someone else has already captured most of the value. RNSI is trying to enter earlier, offering representation, performance planning, and international pathways before players leave home or sign weak deals. If this program succeeds, it doesn't just earn agency fees. It changes the negotiating power of African athletes inside a global sport economy worth hundreds of billions each year. If your child had extraordinary talent, would you want them to sign the first contract offered or wait for a team that protects their future? Music is the second pillar of Roc Nation's Africa play. In mid-July 2025, Nigerian Afrobeats star Ayra Starr entered a management partnership with Roc Nation. The agreement focuses on her global bookings, touring strategy, brand endorsements, and international positioning, while her Nigerian label continues to handle recordings and local releases. This is a classic global pop structure. The home label keeps the creative core, while a major management house scales the artist worldwide. For Roc Nation, signing a top Afrobeats voice is both a business move and a signal that Africa's sound is no longer a niche export. It's part of mainstream world pop with stadium-level potential. When people hear billion-dollar businesses, they may picture a skyscraper or a mega factory. Roc Nation's model is different. Right now, there is no publicly verified Africa-based Roc Nation asset valued at $1 billion on its own. What exists instead is a high-growth framework, scouting networks, management systems, touring pipelines, sponsorship relationships, and global distribution doors. In entertainment and sport, those frameworks compound. One superstar athlete or artist can generate tens of millions across fees, tours, licensing, and brand deals. A roster of them can scale into a continental powerhouse. So Jay-Z's Africa story isn't about trend hopping. It's about system building, creating durable pathways that let African stars earn at the same global level as their American or European peers. If that continues, Roc Nation Africa won't just be an outpost. It will be a bridge moving talent value and generational wealth in both directions. From Sherbro Island's green city blueprint to Accra's diaspora-driven creative surge, these 10 African-American stars signal a new kind of return, not nostalgia, but strategy. Idris Elba bets on renewable urbanism in Sierra Leone. Chance the Rapper fuels Ghana's creative momentum. will.i.am seeds AI and robotics skills. Serena Williams and Jay-Z steer capital and global pipelines into African tech, sport, and music. Either way, Africa is no longer a backdrop. It's a boardroom today. Others explore media, agriculture, and nightlife, though some claims remain unverified. So are we witnessing a renaissance of shared black wealth, or just celebrity hype wearing African colors?